We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Vikings Uncensored. We are down to the final 3 weeks of the regular season, and things are heating up all across the league. The Vikings, of course, have officially clinched a playoff spot, but the positioning still all on the table, including that prize number 1 seed, with a thanks to the Buffalo Bills for knocking Detroit Lions back into our laps. If the Vikings take care of business and win out, they will be the 1 seed. So
that's right.
A lot to play for over the last 3 weeks. And Norrisfius, thank you for bringing into that, Norrisfius. I would like to first off congratulate my North Dakota State University Bison for winning the FCS semifinal game today against the Bunnies of South Dakota State, and moving on to the FCS National Championship, January 6th, Frisco, Texas, for the 11th time in the past 13 years. So it was a great game today. If anybody watched it, it was on ABC. SDSU, NDSU games are always entertaining. Battled it pretty much down to the wire, and NDSU got lucky enough to come out on top this time. So I will take it and move on. But
Jeff Smith coming out with a good question right away. And I think all signs are pointing.
He was off the injury report and is good to go for this weekend. So we'll get into that here a little bit more in just a second. But yes, we will be facing Geno Smith this weekend. So. Montana State, the Bison's opponent. Yeah, they took out the University of South Dakota 31-17. So, yeah, the FCS final will be North Dakota State versus Montana State, rematch of a couple of years ago. So,
got a new name in here, Dean. Nice seeing you tonight.
Yeah, Dean, good evening. There's not a ton of news coming out this week. A couple of things, one or two, I guess you could consider bigger things. But first off, though, the Las Vegas Raiders this week poached edge rusher Andre Carter off of the Vikings practice squad, so he is now on their 53-man roster. Vikings did try to block it, but I guess he did end up going there. Best of luck to him. Sometimes. Yeah, it will happen once in a while.
Especially with the loaded edge rushing room, like we have.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's kind of gotten passed by Gabe Murphy and Bo Richter, so it is what it is at this point. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But then a couple other around the league news that are at least have some tie to the Vikings. Word came out this week that the Miami Dolphins are going to likely release veteran defensive lineman Calais Campbell when they get eliminated from playoff competition, which could be as early as this weekend. So
I definitely have some interest there in Campbell.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, the guy. I mean,
he's an old bear. Yeah, 38 years old.
He's 38 years old, but
dude can still do it though. The guy can still do it.
And you just bring him in for situational pass rush stuff on the defensive line and stuff, especially, with that being a little bit of a weak spot for the Vikings. I'd be up to take a look at it.
Yeah, even at his ripe age of 38, the guy continues to be productive at one of the harder positions in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, Dean, we won't have an excuse when we whoop him. Yeah, we'll get him at full strength. So we'll talk about, like I said, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, on the Calais Campbell thing, yeah, the guy's been around the league forever, but he still can play. I mean, he's
to the point that Anthony's trying to make here. I mean, if you can upgrade your defensive line, you figure something out.
Yeah,
it's not like our defensive line is full of a bunch of superstars.
No, and that's the thing. We've got. I mean, the guys that we got are good at stuff in the run, but we don't get a ton of pressure up the middle, and that's.
And there's a lot of experience along the defensive line with the guys that we do have. They've been together for a few years, pretty much. So, but I would not, by all means, would not be upset if we go and we take a look at Campbell. So,
yeah. Dean, on this one, since Campbell is a vested veteran in the league, he's not subject to waivers. He immediately becomes a free agent and can sign with any team he wishes. I believe that's the case.
And even if he does go to waivers, I mean, he has the ability to block anybody that wants to pick him up. He's going to want to go somewhere where they're going to contend for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's why Miami would lose or would let him go, was to do him a solid so he could catch on. Now, I have heard from various sources that Detroit would be highly interested in him as well. So we'll see what happens if and when that does take place. So that leads us to the other big news, and I just want to put this out here just to quell some of the lunacy that I've been seeing on social media since the announcement came out. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons this week benching quarterback Kirk Cousins and turning to rookie Michael Penix Jr. And now the word the last day or two is that the Atlanta Falcons will likely cut ties with Kirk Cousins prior to March 10th, which is when his roster bonus is due.
Kirk, come back, Kirk.
Do you want me to cut your mic? If they do it as a pre-June 1st cut, they would end up with $65 million in dead money this year. If they do it at a post-June 1st, they could split it in half, kind of like what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. So it's not completely unprecedented, but they are going to be eating a ton of money for 14 games worth of service from Mr. Cousins this year. But I have seen
it really fizzled off.
Yeah, but I have seen, of course, some of the Kyrgyzstan army trying to mobilize and saying, "Let's bring Kirk back to Minnesota." No. Kirk's not coming back.
No.
Sorry to put a lump of coal in your stocking, but Kirk is not coming back.
Ant with a great comment up top there, and with disgusted act, Green as well. With Turner really turning it up the last few weeks. I think, he's getting hot at the right time. Had an amazing game last week against the Bears. I think one of the highest rated defensemen.
Well, and that sack he had was impressive as hell. I mean, the guy was down on his knees.
Yeah, it was.
And still got around and got Caleb and brought him down. So I mean,
and you know what, Rhino, that's the thing this year with Turner is he's not having issues getting there. He's having issues getting home and finishing, basically. Yeah. He's making a lot of these guys look silly all throughout the year. And Flores is bringing them along slowly, and it's really, not sitting well with some fans, and they kind of go off and think that something else is going on. But, I mean, Turner could really very well be a secret weapon going into the stretch.
Yeah, to Disgusting Axe point here. I think they're going to, the injury that Pat Jones had kind of was an opening for Turner to get in and get more playing time. And I talked about this on Monday. Turner's made the most of his opportunities that he's gotten. So Dean, yeah. Jalen Redmond out this week, concussion symptoms, but it sucks because that kid's been playing extremely well too.
He's been a bright spot for sure, as far as development goes.
Yeah. But before we get into the Seahawks stuff, let's give Brunswick the last word on the Bears game, since those of you who watched Monday got my takes on it. I'll give Lance the floor to give us his final thoughts before we close the book on the Bears and move forward to the Seahawks.
Make no mistake, this Bears team we played this past Monday night was not the same Bears team that we played a few weeks back. A lot of it looked like they were, banging it in, they were all ready for the end of the season. Caleb Williams, man, we did a number on him that night. We might not have gotten a lot of sacks, but we were laying him out quite a bit, and legally so. Getting a lot of hits on him. I would have liked to see our offense work a little bit more efficiently, but that's been the story all year. But we were still at the same time able to put up 30 on these guys. Block punt wasn't good. But we walked away with a double score win, and we went in and took care of business. Let's ride it out, and hopefully it carries out throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's been a good year so far when we are disappointed in an 18-point win.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked it. We've got the win. That's what matters. On to the Seahawks. Darnold was a little bit shaky Monday night, but did enough to get us the W.
Yeah. Well, and as you're talking Seahawks here, that's a kind of a good lead-in. Darnold, earlier this week in practice, at least, did have a little bit of a bandage of some sort on his hand. One throw, was it once if not twice, he whacked his throwing hand.
I think it was twice. It was mentioned in the broadcast as well.
Yeah. So, maybe that had a little bit to do with why he was off on some of those throws. Because, I counted at least 5 throws that Darnold normally makes in his sleep. Yeah. He was off.
And that defense really showed up Monday night too, on our side. And to take a note, that touchdown that we gave up was to second stringers. Because our B squad was in there.
Yeah, a lot of the guys were backing up. And at that point in time, it was. But the deepest throw that Caleb Williams had completed up until that lone touchdown drive was 4 yards.
Yeah. This defense is heating up. They've been hot all season, but they looked really good on Monday night. Looked really good on Monday night.
Yeah. Good evening, Jared. You're in here right on time just to catch the preview for the game on Sunday. So we just will get right into that. Close the book on the Bears and look forward, not backward. The final injury report is out for the Vikings. As was mentioned here a little bit ago, Dean brought it up. Jalen Redmond out this week with a concussion. It was something that was never noticed on the field. He wasn't down or anything, any length of time. It was the guardian angel up above or whatever that's up in the skybox that was noticing some sort of concussion-like symptoms, and sure enough, when they called down and made him come off the field, and when they did the tests on him, he had a concussion. So
yeah,
he will not go Sunday. Cornerback Fabian Moreau also will not go this Sunday. Forget what was his
Gilly back.
Gilly is back. Yep. He is off the injury report and will play. So,
but with Moreau being out, opens the door to McLaughlin, coming, making more appearances throughout the game.
McLaughlin played quite a bit on Monday night against the Bears, and he actually played
well. Played well, yeah. I have confidence in that guy if we need to go to him at some point. Yeah,
absolutely. He was one of the higher ranked if not the highest ranked PFF player on the defense, I believe.
I think Turner was the highest ranked, but
yeah, well, but McLovin was right up there though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Then there's two others that are questionable. Fullback CJ Ham with an ankle.
See, that would be a big loss.
And Harrison Smith with a foot, also questionable.
I look for Harrison Smith to go because he's a tough son of a bitch. You know.
Yeah, and honestly, not having Harrison Smith would be a lot bigger loss than not having CJ Ham. But
I like having CJ Ham in there because that's who they trust with when it comes to pass blocking on those crucial downs. You see a lot of CJ Ham in there at running back. And with that being said, and this is kind of going off a little bit, but it's not about CJ Ham. I wish they would give him more carries out of that look too.
Yeah, he
can carry the ball. He's a Leroy Horde type of back. He came into the league as a halfback.
Right. On the Seattle side of things, they are getting fairly healthy. I mean, they got three guys out: linebacker Travis Gibson, backup tight end Brady Russell, and safety Kayvon Wallace are all out this week.
Who's Williams? What's Leonard Williams at on that injury?
Leonard Williams wasn't on the report, so he's playing.
Okay, I heard he was banged up, but okay.
Yeah, he's showing us good to go.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the guys up front that you got to worry about the most with this team.
That Seattle defense is their strong side. It's especially that blitz package they throw at us or throw at teams. Excuse me.
Yeah, and now, truth be told, I haven't watched a ton of Seahawks games this year. I did watch, I watched the entire game against the Packers last weekend, and
they look like crap.
Yes, I mean, Green Bay smacked the snot out of them last week.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, Geno Smith went down early, and they had to go with Sam Howell, which.
Well, if we go out to Seattle and smack the crap out of Seattle this week, that'll be 3 games in a row where we put together pretty good performances. Yeah, as far as points wise go and differential. You know how much everybody cares about that, but
right.
I mean, if we can go out and lay the smackdown in Seattle and come away with another double-digit victory, that would be huge.
Yeah. Now, Seattle, and of course, we're tops in the league or right there anyway. And against the run, they will have both their top running backs back this week. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet are both off the injury report and will play. But you got to watch it. I mean, they haven't been good this year in running the ball. A lot of that's because Walker's been out for a good portion.
Seattle's definitely one of those fringe playoff teams. I'm kind of on the fence about getting in or not getting in at all. They're fighting honestly for their playoff lives, which adds a layer of danger for us to this. I mean, this has got trap game written all over it, in my opinion.
It absolutely does, because if the Commanders happen to knock off the Eagles this weekend, then there is no chance for anybody other than the division winner to make the playoffs out of the West.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and I'm sure you've got this wrote down, Rhino, somewhere, but we have not won in Seattle since 2006.
Mm-hmm. Although the last quarterback to win in Seattle was also wearing number 14. So,
Brad Johnson, huh?
Brad Johnson was the last Vikings quarterback to win in Seattle.
Wow, that's in the second stint here too, but that's going way back. That's going way back for sure.
Yeah. Good morning, Nympha. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Yes, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yes. Yeah, Seattle's coming off an ugly home loss. Absolutely.
Steven, they're fighting for their playoff lives right now. They really are, and that's like an element of danger for us as a team going into there, because they're going to play us hard. That's for sure. But I'm going to tell you what, I am not at all one bit, and I hope this doesn't come back and bite me in the ass, but I'm going to say it anyways. I am not in one bit, shape, or form scared of Geno fucking Smith at all.
No,
or Sam Howell.
I'm not scared of Howell at all. I think if we're playing against Sam Howell, I think that defense would absolutely obliterate him.
I'd take a Kyler Murray over Geno Smith any day of the week.
Yeah. And now Gino has thrown a ton of yards this year, but he's also thrown 14 interceptions. So.
I was just gonna say he's very amped at throwing those picks, especially in the red zone, especially struggles in the red zone. And you know what? We're one of the better defenses in the league, if not the best defense when it comes to red zone defense.
Yeah. Well, I said they are fifth in passing yards, but they're only 15th in scoring. So, and their offensive line is nothing to write home about. They have given up the third most sacks this year in the NFL as well. So,
yeah, and I'm not scared either, Norse. But this is set up to be a perfect trap game for this team, and if we can go in there and smack them around, it's going to say a lot about where we're at as far as mentally and what we want to do going forward too.
Yeah,
because Seattle's definitely one of those teams that we could face it again in the playoffs if it comes down to it. So.
Yeah, but I think if Seattle loses this weekend, I mean, right now the Rams are in the driver's seat in the West.
Yep.
And Seattle, like I said, yeah, like you said, Seattle's fighting for their playoff lives, and
I agree so too, Dean. I think we're going to get back on that pick train this week as well. I think we have 2 or 3 this week.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me any.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Smith doesn't finish the game. I mean, that hit that he took on his leg looked really nasty.
Yeah. And Geno Smith, I mean, he can move around a little bit, but he's not mobile by any means. He's kind of in that same vein as a Kirk Cousins.
Right. And then when he's running around like that, it affects his mechanics and his passing motion and all that. And that's when he throws most of his picks.
Yeah.
When you rush him out of the pocket.
Yep. Yeah, you get him off schedule, and then that's where he struggles. That being said, I mean, they've got a great wide receiver core over there.
Yeah, they do.
I mean,
DK's a little beat up, though.
Yeah. You've got Metcalf, you got Tyler Lockett, you've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, they're all quality wide receivers. But, if the Vikings can get home on rushing the passer, which, we need to get there. We need to at least get in his face and pressure him.
Exactly, Dean. I agree at the bottom there. Geno.
Yeah, Geno, yeah. Jared's calling a Van Ginkel pick 6. We've
been waiting for so long in eager vein.
He got damn close twice against Kirk, and the one he just couldn't corral in, and the other one he missed time. But yeah, on the on the defensive side of things, they got a decent defense.
Yeah, they do. And our interior of our offensive line better step it up this week. Our offensive line as a whole. Fucking Cam Robinson with 4 or 5 penalties last week?
5, I think it was.
Against the Bears. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Now he gave up the sack too. So
yeah, their defense, they're decent against the pass, but they're only 21st against the run. So, and Josh Jacobs killed them last week.
That's a recipe for success for us as an offense. If that's the case, it should be Mama's home cooking this week on offense for us.
Yeah, I mean, you start running the ball, and you can pull that.
You can mix anything in. Then you can mix up your play calling very well against the defense that's showing that it can't consistently stop the run or the pass.
Yeah,
that pass rush over there in Seattle is their bread and butter.
Yeah, and to Dean's point, yeah, that's the thing. Sam's not going to be able to sit back there and hold the ball for 5 minutes waiting for those deep routes to
unless they start running those designed rollouts for Sam like they were a couple weeks ago against the Falcons.
Right.
And killed the Falcons. That absolutely killed the Falcons on those designed rollouts, or just the escapability of Sam Darnold alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I mean, if you can hit some of those deep ones, that's going to slow down that pass rush a little bit because they're not going to be able to blitz as much, but you got to be able to hold these guys out long enough to be able to get some of those to hit. This is going to kind of boil down.
They've been hitting Jefferson on these little short routes a lot the last couple of weeks. I've noticed as well.
Well,
picking up little bits and chunks of yards here and there with Jefferson.
When they've been trying to go deep with him, he's always got a safety over the top. So if they bring him in, that kind of pulls that safety in, and then it opens up for Addison.
What an uncharacteristic drop on Jefferson's part last week there.
Yeah, he he flat. I mean, there's no other way around it. He just flat dropped that thing.
Jefferson gets that catch and puts it in the end zone. That interception that Darnold threw a couple plays later is gone. So I mean,
yeah, I mean that, and the 18-point win becomes a 25-point win.
Yep.
But I can't fault him too much for it because it, shit happens on occasion. The guy makes enough great plays that you're going to have that once in a while. But very uncharacteristic and in a very bad spot.
In all honesty, this offense should feast this weekend against the Seattle defense that is kind of porous at times outside of their pass rush, the ability to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean their cornerbacks are Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, decent guys, but they're not.
Neither are elite.
No, nothing I would consider a shutdown corner by any means. Their safeties are
Yep.
So they should be able to make some hay against these guys this weekend. It's just going to be that we gotta. The offensive line has to do a better job than it's been doing.
And the ability to finish drives with points.
Yeah. With that, how about we roll into our keys to the game? What we think the Vikings need to do in order to come out of Seattle with a victory this weekend. So, Lance, the floor is yours first.
I think the number one key that we could talk about, and this is what we kind of been talking about for the most part of this preview, is keeping Sam Darnold clean this game. Offensive line has got to step it up. Can't be having Sam on the ground on every passing play, So that's my number one key. Keep Sam Darnold upright. Keep people out of his face. Offensive line's got to step up. Defensively, just keep doing what you're doing. Start looking for those picks. I think this week's going to be the week where we get to our 3 picks of Geno Smith, and Brunzina onesie, and keep getting after the quarterback. That's it. And as my number 3 right there is stay in Geno Smith's face, make him make mistakes. Win your one-on-one matchups on the defensive line. And blitzers find a way to get free. Coming off the edge or up the A gap. If we could make it a long day for Geno Smith, this run. Granted, the last few weeks his rush defenses kind of went down, but that kind of goes with the game plan and what's going on there. But this rush defense can kind of hold down Charbonnet and
Walker.
Yeah, I was thinking to say DJ Dallas, but it's Kenneth Walker. And Walker. I mean, we're going to walk out of Seattle with the wins for the first time in 22 years. So, just do what we need to do and continue to do what we've done throughout this 7-game winning streak. But it's going to be huge. You stay after Geno, keep Sam clean, put points on the board when you're down in the red zone, finish drives with points. Don't leave points off the board. Nice. I'm happy for you. Happy for you. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And our offense should, like Rhino said earlier, make hay against this defense if all goes to plan. And like I said earlier, it's a perfect setup for a trap game for us, on our final 3-game stretch. But if we just keep doing what we've doing and believe that we can get things done, we'll walk out of Seattle with a W on Sunday.
Yeah, no, that the trap game thing, I thought that in the back of my mind too. But one thing you got to give Kevin O'Connell credit for is he's minimized a lot of those trap game demons.
Very resilient game, yeah.
I mean, we still play down to opponents at times, but it's not really. We haven't, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want to jinx the team, but KOC has done well keeping the teams usually ready to play and not allowing that that kind of stuff to really creep in as much as it has in years past, I guess. But as far as my keys to the game, number one is run the damn ball. Talked about it, last week. Josh Jacobs killed them for, when they played Green Bay. You can get Aaron Jones going, get Akers going. Then everything works off of that. The play action.
Akers has been quite the pickup, I believe, for this team. And I kind of mentioned it to you last week during the game. Akers, when he touches the ball, he's really been a bright spot in this running back room, I believe.
Yeah. Well, last week against the Bears, the Vikings got 2 rushing touchdowns, which is almost unheard of this year for them. So,
yeah. Jones is right on the brink of 1,000 yards this year, 5 touchdowns and 300 something yards receiving. So he has his year here has been a success in my opinion.
Yeah. But with that run the ball, use the short passing game, dump it off to the running backs coming out of the backfield. A lot of times that is just as good as a run.
Our screen games looked excellent this year.
Aaron Jones has been a big part of that. I mean, Akers has done well in it too, but work that small stuff. I say this every week, take what the defense is giving you. If they're shutting the guys down deep, if you're running Jefferson and Addison down, it's going to open up that stuff across the middle for Hawkinson, or, the backs coming out of the backfield, hit some slants, hit some, short crossing routes, things like that.
The last 2 weeks we've been calling for Hawkinson during games, and on cue, there he shows up. I mean, you're like, where has he been all game? And then the next thing you know, he catches the next 3 passes.
Right. So he's right there in the toolbox whenever they seem to need him. Call on him, he's there. Josh Oliver back and healthy again. He's had some very key plays this year. Very underrated as a pass receiver. We always talk about him being a run blocker. Key number 2 is the fundamentals. Brunswick mentioned earlier about the 5 penalties that Robinson had last week. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. When you've got drives going, finish the damn drive. Don't let a penalty knock you back and then stall the drive and force a punt. You got the ball moving, keep it moving. Dink and dunk it down the field if you have to. Play sound, fundamental football. Don't have stupid penalties, and don't turn the damn ball over. We did have that interception Sam threw last week, which was a 4th down throw that questionable as to whether or not we should have actually done that there. Could have kicked, we were in field goal range, probably should have kicked the field goal. You and I talked about it, when we were watching it. I didn't really mind the aggressiveness at that point.
No, I didn't either.
But he shouldn't have made that throw. That was a horrible throw.
And it wouldn't have even mattered if Jefferson would have caught that, just put it in the end zone.
Right, exactly. But he didn't, and this came up afterwards.
Right.
And then my 3rd key is get home on the pressure. Get in Geno's face, knock him to the ground, make him rush, make him go off schedule like we talked about earlier. It's not always about the sack, but if you're getting there and forcing the throws, getting pressured, if we can get a little bit of surge up the middle so he can't step up into those throws. But, there again, that's when we talked about at the beginning of the show about the potential of adding somebody like Calais Campbell for the stretch run, because we don't get that up the middle pressure all that much. If we do, it's coming in off a blitz when you're bringing Cashman or somebody or Metellus coming up through there. So I just, be disciplined in your blitzes, get in there, knock him down, get him off schedule. And then, to your point earlier, he's going to start throwing interceptions if we do that. That's basically my keys. I mean, again, fairly basic. Just do your damn job. Go in there. The Vikings are a better team than the Seahawks. You go in, you take care of business, you walk out of there with a win. I don't care if it's a 30-point win or a 3-point win. Just walk out of there with a win.
Right. So how about taking care of business this week? I mean, we got everything laid out in front of us. We just need to go and take care of business.
Yeah. The Vikings fully control their own destiny. It does not matter what the Eagles do. It does not matter what the Lions do. As long as the Vikings take care of business and win out, we are at US Bank Stadium throughout the playoffs. So
everybody's pulling out the metrics this last week for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we will roll into our predictions segment, where we look, of course, not only at the Minnesota Vikings game for the upcoming weekend, but also what our rivals in the NFC North are doing as well. So a couple of interesting matchups, I guess, on the slate this week. Starting off with the New Orleans Saints traveling to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers.
Well, the Packers are they're coming together and they're winning some games. I mean, it's not a lie. They're pushing for the playoffs. And on the other side, there's New Orleans just playing to play at this point. New Orleans did have a big win last weekend, I do believe. I think they'll put up a fight against the Packers, but I look for the Packers to walk away with the win, unfortunately, this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. And I know a lot of you guys out there are going to be like, how can you pick the Packers? Well, I mean, I'm just giving my unbiased opinion. I think, they're playing in Lambeau. New Orleans doesn't have anything to play for. The Packers should walk away easily with a victory here this Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints right now are a mess. They've already fired their coach this year. Their quarterback situation is god-awful right now. Desmond Ridder is a starter. He has not looked good at all. They've been bouncing back and forth between him and whatever they can scrape up off the floor. I made this comment on the Friesen 4 cast that I guest on Wednesdays. The only way I see Green Bay losing this game is that
great comment coming in from somebody that's new here.
Isn't that the party boat footage? The literally constable. Great to see the new face. No, we were not in any way, shape, or form associated with the Love Boat scandal. So, but yeah, back to the Packers thing. The only way I see Green Bay losing this game is if somebody welds the door shut on the locker room and they can't get out to take the field. So,
yeah.
That being said, I hope New Orleans surprises the shit out of us and shocks the world and beats them, but I don't see it happening.
I mean, this playoffs could be dominated by NFC North teams, to be honest with you.
Oh,
it could very well be an NFC North divisional champion or NFC championship game.
Very likely. I mean, it very possible, at least if not likely, I guess. Green Bay has not clinched yet, but I think with a win this weekend, they do. If I remember looking at the clinch scenarios right, so it would have to completely fall apart to not have 3 NFC North teams in the playoffs this year. So as much as I hate to say it, Green Bay wins, and they keep pace a little bit further behind Vikings in Detroit. So speaking of Detroit, that moves us to our second game. The Detroit Lions going to Soldier Field to take on the Bears.
Like I said about the game earlier, is that this isn't the same Bears team that's been playing the majority of the season. I think they kind of packed it in already. I don't look for them to put up much of a fight against this Detroit team. I mean, I want them to, of course, obviously, knock down Detroit a peg or two, but it's not going to be like the game they played last time where came down to the wire. I look for Detroit to take care of business in Soldier Field. That might be the only thing that Chicago has going for them, is that they're at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I duly see Detroit going down to Chicago and just taking care of business. I would love to see them drop another one, but I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, injuries are absolutely decimating the Lions right now. They have 14 players.
It will catch up eventually.
Off their defense on injured reserve right now. David Montgomery out now as well. So
I think Dan Campbell called one of the most idiotic things last week in their game against the Bills with that onside kick with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
It's
That might,
12
like I
minutes.
said, might be the most idiotic play call from a head coach I've ever seen in the history of the NFL.
It was 12 minutes to go. So, 12 minutes and down by 10. That the onside kick so rarely works anymore because back in the day when you could surprise them with a kick, it was a little more successful. But now when you have to declare it,
even the percentages of recovery right now are so low. I mean, why? Why would you even? Like I said, it was one of the most idiotic play calls. I mean, I've seen a couple other ones. The Pagano fake punt, that was pretty idiotic too. But this ranks right up there with that.
Yeah. But speaking of idiotic stuff, the last Lions-Bears game was on the Thanksgiving was the idiocy of one Matt Eberflus at the end there that finally got him fired. The Bears should have beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. They really should have.
They should have beat the Commanders too, but shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
Something.
So, but I'm saying that the Bears are fully capable of taking the Lions to the brink and potentially beating them this weekend. The problem is, I think the Bears have given up and quit.
Yeah, they packed it in for sure.
They looked like that against San Francisco 2 weeks ago. I thought for the most part they looked like they didn't care last week against us. So I don't.
Caleb Williams looked like he was dying. I mean, metaphorically speaking, yeah. Yep. And then on the bench too. I mean, that's the effect.
Yeah, he had the one where he was just laying flat on the ground out there.
That's the Flores effect. You see a lot of quarterbacks doing that after they play our defense this year.
Yeah, but you don't see too many quarterbacks laying on the bench.
Dramatic, so dramatic.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a bad. Yes, I know he got his ass leveled right before that, but that is a bad look from your quarterback.
Justin Fields was doing that for us too a couple of years back when he was playing us.
Yeah, but not to that effect. And
not to that extent, not that dramatic, no.
But that and that is one of the things that the gripes I have had about Caleb Williams. The whole time we talked about it at length during the draft process and everything is the guy does not handle adversity. We're the shit, and he still doesn't.
Yeah, it's all up here with him.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the game against us last week. We had that guy running for his life and confused the shit out of him. And
he's had plenty of game, plenty of reps, and I'm not seeing any improvement.
No. That being said, I hope he goes out and throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Lions this week, but I just don't see it happening. Hey, Dan, good evening. I as much as I would love to pick the Bears this weekend, I just in good conscience cannot do so. So the Lions win and keep the pressure on us to keep doing the same. So, but that leads us to our main game for the weekend. We have the late slot, of course, being it's in Seattle. I think it's a 3:05 kickoff.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Vikings
are only 3:00 kickoff this year. Maybe we had one other one too, but I hate these 3:00 kickoffs games.
Yeah, and still could be on in week 18 with the Lions because they have not given a time.
I look for that to be a primetime game. They're going to flex that to primetime.
It's very possible, especially if we both win the next 2 weeks.
You're right.
But yeah, 3:00 Vikings at Seattle. So what do you think there, Lance? We've talked about it quite a bit tonight, but give us your official.
Well, we haven't won there since 2006. It's time for that to end, tomorrow afternoon. I fully look forward to us. If we go in there well prepared, like we have went into most of these games all year, we're going to walk out of Seattle with a W and take care of business.
Yeah, I know a lot of fans are sitting there waiting for the other 31-13. Okay. The fans are out there waiting for the other shoe to drop because it's happened every year that most of us have been in existence watching this team. But I still think there's something different about this team this year. And I
comes
think
from the evolution of KOC and KAM at the head of things. It's a natural evolution into a new era of Vikings football.
Yeah. Well, and add Brian Flores to that mix too. I mean, he doesn't stand for his defense not doing their jobs. He'll rip into them on the sidelines if he has to.
I'm just talking about like a mindset for this team.
Yeah,
just
right.
Putting the past and moving forward and, manifesting a new, brighter future for this Vikings team.
Yeah. School for Life Barber, good evening. But yeah, I mean, this team never feels like it's out of a game. I mean, you look, last year, whatever it was, or 2 years ago, we were down 30 points to the Colts and engineered the greatest comeback in NFL history and won the game.
Under Kevin O'Connell. That's why this team is never out of the game. It's because of the head coach.
No, and we saw it a couple times against the Cardinals was one, where Darnold, when we needed to go down and get a score at the end, Sam Darnold was absolute freaking money, and it just boom, 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 boom down the field and score.
Right, and we were just able to hang around. We've been just able to hang around and catch teams. If we are down.
Now, that being said, we need to play a complete game. We can't dick around for 3 quarters.
This is where we need to really start figuring it out. Yes. Yep. This is where we need to start really figuring it out.
All the way until February, if we get that far. You cannot dink around for 2 or 3 quarters and expect to win, because we have 3 more games in the regular season, and then if after that, if you lose, you're done.
Yeah, now is the time to get it figured out and fire on all cylinders.
Yep. But yeah, that being said, I truly do believe that they're going to be ready to play. They're going to go in there. Seattle's not as hard to play, a place to play, as it has historically been. I forget it was Northfish or whoever put it earlier. That Seattle's 3-5 at home this year, so.
Well, they had DK Metcalf begging fans to not sell their tickets to the opposing teams, so that tells you enough there.
There were more almost as many Packer fans there last week as there was Seahawks fans. So, and Vikings fans travel well, so I look for there to be a sizable presence there on Sunday of Vikings fans as well, and that's only going to help, because you may not necessarily cause any issue or as many issues for the Seattle offense, but you're knocking down the amount of noise
volume
that that 12th man over in Seattle used to be the loudest place ever to play.
Yeah, during the Legion of Boom, for sure.
Yeah, and now it's not. So I mean that's going to help as well too. So that's one thing. Thank you for bringing that up, Skull for Life Barber. There is rain in the forecast for tomorrow, so that could be an issue. I think it's going to end up having to rely a little bit more on the run game, depending on how hard it's running.
Guess who had a great pro day in the rain?
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he could have rescheduled, but no, he went out there.
The rain does not affect Mr. Sam Darnold.
No. And as long as it doesn't affect his receivers or the backs, we should be just fine. So, but that is something to pay attention to as well. But I think the Vikings go in here tomorrow and take care of business, move on to 13-2, and keep pace with Detroit, and then sets up a hell of a last 2 weeks of the season. So,
hell of a last 2 weeks of the season for sure. This could be our toughest stretch of the whole schedule right here.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought the first 5 games of the year were the toughest ones, but this last.
Well, the final 4 we thought were going to be tough, included with Chicago, because we didn't know what Chicago was going to be at that point either. But yeah, the first 5 and the last 5.
Yeah, and without a doubt, we've got, once we're done with Seattle this week, we have Green Bay and we have Detroit, and both of them, are playoff teams, and so it's like I mentioned to start the show. It's crunch time, and we're going to see what this team is really made of the next couple of weeks here. So, with that, you got anything else you want to hit tonight, or?
No, I think that's about it. Pretty smooth episode tonight. Went by a little bit quicker than normal. Appreciate having all you guys here for sure. What do you think, Rhino?
I think, I want to thank everybody again, as always, for joining in the chat, bringing the great questions, the great knowledge. Had some new faces in here tonight, which is always great to see, along with the OGs. You guys are here every week. And, it still makes me feel really good. And I don't understand it sometimes, but I'm glad you guys do, that you're willing to, take a couple hours out of your week every week to, come watch the content that Lance and I put out here. And it's Ted Glover's happy right now. I take it Ohio State must be winning. It's college football is going on, the playoffs and everything else. So go catch some of that. There's, of course, NFL games today, NFL games tomorrow. And it is a nonstop smorgasbord of football from here until
stacked week next week for the NFL. I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week. So,
yeah. So again, with that, thank you everyone for joining us. Shout out to the Filipino fan club, of course, watching on the other side of the globe, waking up with us, I guess, on a Sunday morning over there. But yeah, with that, why don't you take us out of here, Lance?
Few things here. Sam Darnold in a class of about to be in the class of his own. If he could finish the season with 3 wins, I think right now a quarterback on the new team with the most wins in his first season, I think you're looking at Peyton Manning and Steve McNair, I believe, with 13 apiece. And right now Darnold's sitting at 12. So he joins pretty elite company if he walks out of Seattle tomorrow with that win and coming into with a new team and achieving 13 wins in his first season when nobody expected anything out of Darnold to begin the year. So,
and also with a win tomorrow, Kevin O'Connell becomes the first coach in Vikings history to have multiple 13-win seasons. So,
yeah. And another thing, so Darnold, go out and get that 13th win. You join elite company with Peyton Manning, and Steve McNair as well. And Kevin O'Connell jumping over Dan Campbell for what should be a well-deserved Coach of the Year award, especially with what was all said about us before the season even started. I mean, Detroit is who they thought they were going to be going into the season, but that award is for a guy that takes his team and leads them to higher expectations than what were perceived beforehand. And I think if anybody in this league is deserving of it, KOC is deserving of it the most. In my non-biased opinion. I mean, it's easy to say, you're a homer and that you think you should get it, but he's proven it. With that being said, let's walk into Seattle tomorrow and come out with the victory. And we'll see y'all next week. I'm thinking Friday night. Millie and Aubrey, if you're out there watching, Dad loves and misses you. Skull.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Rhino's Rants Monday night also as well. We'll talk about the game. So with that, have a great rest of your weekend, guys. And we will see you on the other side.